don't wanna fight. Down, down, slow, mama. Every day and night. Face of pain. Make things right. Don't need mine. Gonna rock you all night. When you need some help, just call to the man up above. The only thing you're about to get is turned around. When you're feeling down and you want some love, always keep in mind to the pretty white dove.
Welcome to this, ladies and gentlemen, or however you may refer to yourself. No, not really. We're going to work that out. We're going to go binary on that. Rather, keep that which is in place. I think Tog's going to come in and perhaps try to work out some philosophy here. Um, there's some interesting things to be pointed out as I think more and more about these matters. Continue to study, listen to others, debate, just have discussions sometimes. Um, it's just getting clearer and clearer that the atheist position is they're not it's inconsequential. It's not to be concerned with. And I say that not to talk about the true purpose of the man or woman professing to be an atheist, the love that Jesus Christ has for them, the importance of their mere existence. What I'm saying is the irrelevance when they want to argue against God is becoming clearer and clearer. And it gets to the point where it's simplified down to nothing is what they have. They have a bunch of doubt and things that they're caught up in that they want to convey to you to make you look like your belief system is silly. But when you really start to study the format or the framework of argumentation and what's happening there, well, you want to question what they're standing on, why they have relevance, why they have any authority in the matter at all. And it gets interesting. And it's not just a matter of discovery, because I think and suspect many people understand that. The challenge becomes is in the interaction, the consistency of understanding and holding that and arguing against that. There's think about going out in the world and trying to argue with everyone's particular brand of nonsense, let's just say, or blend of experience, to be not so crude about it. Um, when you focus on the factors that are relevant in all people, or the ideas that are carried across reality in the sense that what can you find to be true of human nature, of all human beings? How can you even make a claim about all human beings? Things like that. Because most atheists are empiricists. They base their worldview on sense data, observation, experience. They tend to focus on the knowledge after the fact, which in philosophy is the a posteriori knowledge, as opposed to prior knowledge, things that lead up and are engaged with the conclusion of the a posteriori knowledge. A science assuming philosophies that it can account for within science itself. It's a very interesting point. It gets made often, perhaps not talked about enough, though. The idea that science relies on philosophies faithfully that science itself cannot account for. Welcome, Todd. How you doing? Where you been?
Hey, been good. Just been around, busy. My kids are out of school. My eighth grader's now going to be a ninth grader, so that's exciting. And the meta of that, just the years go by and it's crazy. Yeah,
You said the meta of that?
yeah. Like the just thinking about it, like from
Yeah.
baby to eight, he's graduated eighth grade, right? It's just a
Yeah.
trip. Like it's the short time span, even though it's been so long. It just seems like yesterday, changing diapers and all that. So it's like crazy.
Yeah.
Time flies. And then, I got white hairs and stuff. So I was just looking at myself in the mirror like, wow. Man.
Yeah, the circle of life, right? And then they're changing your diapers 20 years from now.
Yeah. I'm still
Yeah.
changing diapers because I got the 2 little ones.
Oh
I was
yeah.
checking in with my wife, yeah, and then, my daughter's still up because, it's school's out now, so try to make sure she gets some sleep. Like, "It's gonna be 1 o'clock. Go to bed." She's watching some TV show. But, yeah, this solipsism thing, it comes to mind in universalism is actually what made me think of it. I didn't catch anything you were saying, so
Oh,
sorry
you
if you were
didn't?
speaking. No, I didn't.
I mean, in the comments about solipsism to you, you didn't catch it?
I saw what you I saw what you were typing back to me. I'm just saying
Well, let's go from there then.
yeah, okay.
It's ridiculous to argue from a solipsistic position. Everything you would be bringing into the conversation can be re-challenged as time moves forward. That's a point towards skepticism. The whole position would need you to grant it.
Right, that's if you are the person arguing. I would agree with that, but I'm not arguing from that position.
So
I'm not
you're talking
saying
about, well, I mean, you're inquiring about a solipsist, right?
right, one who
I'm
would have
showing
that,
I'm
yeah.
showing you how if you take that position, be quiet and go crawl in a hole. Don't broadcast it. That's what I'm saying to you. Because when you engage in arguments, it can be pointed out that you consecutively and consistently know nothing by your own account. Does that make sense to you? I mean, does the structure I'm showing you make sense with my conclusion?
Yeah, within are you talking about just within my own framework or just in generalization?
I'm saying a solipsist that wants to argue is ridiculous. Now, we have some proclaimed solipsists. They're rare, but I think of Howdy. That's Howdy's position. Remember him?
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with the idea. What I mean by that is, um, I'm not arguing by a creaturely standard. So this is the theological standard. It's a different ball game from a secular point or a humanistic, a creaturely point of solipsism. I'm talking about ontological prior. There's only one mind, and in creation, because that mind is unchanging, it does not change as we do, as we're temporary. This mind is the only mind, therefore it is a solipsistic mind. But since there's a trinity, it gets a little bit more nuanced. But that's only from my perspective because
Why are you applying philosophical creaturely terms to who? A god? Gods?
well, yes, this would why would that because that goes into principle, which goes into logos, which goes into why Christ is revealed to us in the first place.
No, why are you assigning like it's like a anthropomorphizing God? You're making him into a creature in order to apply that term to him.
The problem I can see with that, yeah, the problem with that is Christ, because Christ is a man, although he is God. And because Christ is a man who comes by to find these things, we reach in the same realm.
Where
We
could you
don't reach
go?
the go ahead.
Where could you go with this idea, though? I mean, where could you take
Oh,
that? Like, if you're trying to convince somebody that God is a solipsistic mind, is that what you're saying?
the idea came in the Ace's arguments of universal
But the
salvation.
solipsist knows nothing, but God would know everything. So that would be
Correct, yes.
completely contrary to the idea of solipsism, right?
It not in God's case.
So, what is the idea of attaching the term solipsism if you have a completely different reality going on there?
I wouldn't know another term. You could just call it God in the other sense,
Yeah,
but
I
still
mean, why
the same
attach that term? You're
principle.
talking about a sovereign creator. That's the term that's used there.
Right, but even in the same principle of having a mind, it is still the oneness of
The
that. We
mind
are all
is
derived of the said one,
the
the same
mind is
spirit of
not
that as
going to be
well.
the mind is not going to be comparable to the human mind, as Paul professes in the epistles. He talks about we have knowledge from God, but we can never fully know the mind of God. So there you go.
That's true. I don't think we could fully know because it'd be impossible.
So why are you trying to define that which you can't fully know?
Because it's a within principle to know God.
Well, we have the scriptures talking about an all-powerful creator, sovereign God. Why not speak that way of him rather than applying a secular term that doesn't really actually apply?
Solipsism in totalitarian sense of ontological prior, it is solipsism.
You
There
can
would be
make a
no other line.
reference to a piece of a philosophy that matches, whether it's a priori or a posteriori. Why use the term? Is it to be, maybe it's to be to gain attention up front, to get into this conversation. But what I'm gathering out of it is that there's no need for that term.
It goes into the ideas of individualism and solipsism, because there's the two separate things. So and in the paradigm of how reality functions, if you want to call it that way, if there is an open case to where God obviously is the ultimate creator and we choose to be closed off to him, it's an argument that of identity. And so likewise, if we don't identify with God and have alignment, we're not saved in his image. So it's an argument against universal salvation. Because it goes into God recognizing us as individuals, because individuals is what makes us have the creaturely distinction.
Who
Because
would
God
who do
himself
you
is
have
not
in
an
mind that
individual.
who do you imagine yourself having this argument with on the Universalist team? First, that comes to mind without thinking too hard.
Probably Ace if I ever work with the
Okay.
Courage. I just don't know if what I'm saying is sound enough because I'm unfamiliar with the words solipsism and individual in this type of context that I'm trying to bring it up as, because
Well,
I'm new
Ace,
to it, right?
yeah, Ace is a key character there, of course. He's kind of the teacher of this community universalism. So you do realize at this point you could be speaking on his platform to him. He will not be listening, but you have other people listening. I'm sure you're aware of that. Like he does not
Right,
care.
yeah.
He doesn't
I
care what you're saying. Anybody, any of us, he doesn't care. So, but you're speaking to other people, like more people.
Right, it's the audience. I was gonna
Yeah.
bring it up just to see what he would think of it. Um as a point of reasoning, because it's a contention into what I think what he thinks about what God is and all his mercy. Because and likewise it's mercy. For example, like if God wants to destroy himself, and then it is up to God to destroy himself, because every one of us that is in his image is in the image of destruction as well. So there isn't a problem with the so-called destruction that is undergoing in hell or whatever the heck he said. So
Yeah.
so it's an argument against it. It's again, there are other universalists besides Ace. He just preached. There can be universalists that have what I'm trying to offer, essentially. And
When you
that's
say
yeah,
what you're trying to offer, that's an interesting phrase because that gets into like what your actual position is, right?
yeah.
But that's not clear to me. Is it clear to you?
No, because at that point, again, it's a borrowing from his perspective. But
Yeah,
even in
you
that
can.
same
You mean borrowing,
borrowing,
or you're not observing and utilizing. You're trying to jump into a universalist worldview. You're not
not
doing internal critique, is what you're saying.
not particularly his. Like either way, like the term universal just goes back to Catholicism anyway.
That's
So
true.
it's
That's right.
redundant.
That's
Yeah.
what that means. Yeah. But why are you? I'm interested in why you're not thinking of it, or why we think about this so differently. Like we both like to critique, and this keeps coming up. Like in order to critique, in order to argue, don't you have to have a solid position in place? Because I'm trying to figure out what what you're doing there in general.
Correct. Like so it would make sense to bring it up to someone else to see if it's valid or sound, than rather go to someone that that you don't debate it
Well,
with, right? Would it
Well, no,
make
I'm saying
sense to
like
you?
anytime you evaluate somebody, a critique is a full evaluation. Like you're sitting there like a doctor and a patient. You're just pausing when you want to, giving, your opinions, pointing out things whenever you want. That's a complete evaluation. Like I'm interested in people who critique what is in place before they start critiquing. Like you're falling back and you're resting on something in order to evaluate people as right, wrong, correct, incorrect. That process requires some sort of consistency on your part, an established position.
I
Even
would,
if you don't have one to reveal, you're still utilizing something.
in that case, it would be the alignment and function and obedience into which people say they have of God, and particularly how they represent said God, because not all representations are the same. And yet, if we are supposed to be the image, an image should show the exact reflection and not a distortion. And again, that goes back into the solip, because there could only be
Well,
one,
is it
even if
not
it
like the
is a
truth?
reflection.
The image is sorry.
No, go ahead. I was
It
rambling.
isn't it not like isn't it consider the truth always present, but masked, distorted, covered up by various factors, is the same as the image that's always with us, but it is overtaken by the flesh, ignored by idol worship, etc. It's always present. Do you think of it that way?
Correct. But you wouldn't be able to, because God's, and unchanging and all that.
Well, you have something there, that reflection that you speak of, the scriptures speak of, that's ever present, always there for you, much like Christ, the forgiveness and love of Christ. It never goes away. You just ignore it, suppress it, distort it, etc.
Right, but the important thing is there has to be an I there in order to be doing said distortion.
The I, right, because then you would have God doing the distortion, which is back to universalism.
Right. And if God is actually doing his own distortion, then
Right.
it's still up to God to destroy himself if he so chooses. It's like, again, I think it's a solid argument against the case of, well, yeah, universal salvation can also go into, like I said, reconciliation goes back into making things null. So if there's no account, there's no one to carry into um the identity of what is salvation, because the I did not meet the requirement and meant into the requirement of I should be destroyed. It goes into this weird idea of suicide in a sense, because Christ had foreknowledge, and in a way it's a sin. This is where it gets kind of dirty. In a way it's a sin for him not to continue living, by not running away and dying on the cross and knowing that he would. So it's like that's like the one sin, is that he did allow his flesh to die when he could
What do
have
you
kept
mean the
on
one
living.
sin?
Like, for example, it gets into because it's like the idea of what is the
What gets
crux
into?
for what
You're
is the
saying it
crux
gets into what is it?
the salvation factor, like why there's a salvation.
Why there's a salvation, but back to Christ, the one sin, like where's this I guess I'll use the same word. Where is this the evaluation of Christ committing a sin here? Where's that coming from?
It comes with the idea of life is like although that God has the ability to resurrect, right? That's not the issue. It's the idea that Christ can continue performing miracles, although again the resurrection of him is the greatest miracle. That he could have stayed on earth and still earth. It's a secular argument that I've heard.
A secular argument that he's a sinner
Right.
because they didn't do it like he liked. They like.
To some degree, it's like
Okay.
it's a redundancy. It's a redundancy, like I said,
So
because
they had, it's like the atheist propping themselves up. Like I have an opinion. I would have done it differently. It's like wild heart level. Like
Yeah,
God's not as moral as me type of thing. So it's a gateway right into morality or
yeah,
ethics. Ooh, like what? Oh, tell us about your system. Oh, it's subjective. Who cares?
yeah. It the idea also goes back into what I'm talking about. Also, not just that, but like Christ being slain before the world and the meaning into that, like the cost spent of creation, and
Why?
then
So why did you bring that dirty secular argument into your theory? Is that what you're doing there?
yeah,
Because
because it's ace theo, and I
okay,
don't think he would have a problem with it.
no, he can't have a problem with anything by his own account, but he
Correct.
always does. You know what I mean? It's. I
Right, I
didn't
get
want to
it.
go there necessarily, but he's pointing out people's poor mental health, like Eric and so forth. And I'm thinking, what is mental health of someone who says, "I'm not doing anything, you're not doing anything, no one's right, no one's wrong," and then writing boohoo memos every day? Is that mentally well? I don't think he wants to get into mental wellness with other people. That's just too far. Anyway,
Well, yeah, that's actually what is to be in question in the whole. Because again, if he solipsistically thinks like he's in a solipsistic world, and you're part of the like I said, the Borg, and you're just a unit within that system, going back to the mainframe, whatever. And in this case, the mainframe's just like the Holy Spirit being the God conduit to the greatest source, which is the Spirit. It's just a
well,
percentage in which we have in this life. Again, there's an argument for it. It's just I never dabbled in it, so it's like it's
no,
odd
the
to
solipsist can't
whatever.
have an argument. Is what I'm going to contend with you, because I'm going to take a different pathway to show you that they can't even stand on an argument. But I think most people, at least around here, I'm noticing they don't care about that. They don't care that they can have a foundation that doesn't make sense. That's a strange thing to me. That just it's probably a sign to start re-engaging or like choosing more carefully who to engage with. Like if someone says like, okay, you've got this beautiful shiny car, but I lifted the hood last night when no one was around and there's no engine in it, and you're showcasing it like you're going to drive it tomorrow, and you got all this crowd of people waiting to come and watch you take off. Like it seems like there's a lot of that everywhere. Just fluff, just talk. And when you go, well, let's kind of like evaluate, let's kind of like pull the curtain back and see how you can make any of this make sense. And it's like, no, I don't care about that. I don't care about making sense on a fundamental level. I just want to talk about the things I'm comfortable with. I see far too much of that.
I find it kind of cute from a mechanic's perspective on the car analogy,
Okay, good.
because like the way you said it, the framework's there, and it's a work in progress because it's missing the heart because it's not
Yeah,
running. But you
yeah,
definitely have a solid body that you can that's showing off. It's just you're missing the heart, which is
sure.
kind of funny. It's funny that you say that because it fits your analogy, I think, to what you're saying. Like people are missing the heart of their arguments because it's wobbly. And yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
agree with that.
with the
Like
car
again, yeah,
and
and
the beer, because it's like that's what the whole roadshow tomorrow is based on. The fact that there's an engine in there and this is going to happen. It's like there's a lot of
yeah.
analogies you can use with cars. I think I've heard you use one, and I wondered if you'd heard it from Jay Dyer. He was getting into that. He's like, people always want to talk about, oh, shiny car go fast, whoa. But I'm in here going, well, how does the gear shaft interact with the ignition? And, how many cylinders do you have? Yeah, all these
Sorry for that, Megan.
technical questions. Like a car aficionado is going to have to know about all the parts. I mean, the
Oh,
entire
totally.
car and uniform, the, the unity between the working components of the car. Now, this becomes a more simple example as well, because when you
Ooh,
get into like the unification of cognitive ideas, it seems like an endless sea compared to a car. But anyway, go ahead.
this actually kind of gets into the mind of what I'm also trying to represent. Um, because it goes into like logos and what is logic and the law of identification. So like what you're saying about knowing all the components of said thing. Obviously God would know everything about creation from beginning to end and so on and so forth. But likewise in the fields that are creaturely, you can have the full set of knowledge, and in that goes to the solipsistic mind, because an inventor can have an idea and invent something again that no one else knows about, and in that they are a solipsistic in that individual frame. No one else knows what they know. So but that goes back again to the
Okay,
I
but
think it's
listen,
open
you
individualism.
keep saying solipsism. You want to talk about solipsism for some reason. Do you understand the solipsist to be the ultimate skeptic? That's how I think of solipsism, like the ultimate skeptic. They can't know anything for sure at any time.
No, I just go off I think the definition of mind. Let me see it real quick.
Of what?
Of mind.
No, it's not a definition of solipsism.
Like the solipsism is the philosophical theory that only one's own mind is certain to exist.
So nothing that they ever talk about outside of that one statement is up for question, including time, space, meaning, value, purpose, all the transcendental categories. You see what I'm saying? I'm thinking about this differently. I just than you are. It's
Well,
just the fact of the matter.
maybe like I said, within that definition alone, it like the
It's
only mind
empty,
to be
dude.
one is to be God.
It's completely empty. It's a it's an embarrassment to bring that to the table and argue with people. And I'm trying to tell you and others, it's an embarrassment to feel like it's an embarrassment to get out argued by a solipsist is what I'm saying.
By
But
an individual like that, yeah, I agree with you. Like,
there
okay,
are bright people that are solipsists though, right? Like you're gonna like Howdy I mentioned earlier, like he's bright enough to make people doubt it and argue. But if you challenge him on that level, he's like, he doesn't know anything. He has to say that. He has to hold to that. Perhaps Serb is in a similar category, even though he might not outright mention it. These guys can't argue, but they can bring doubt and sell you their doubt and they want to trip you up. They don't like people who have certainty, who have faith. So they want to bring in their doubt. But as far as holding that
right.
position and having an active argument, you just start to work on the basic philosophy of like, how do you know anything? What is real to you?
All right.
What
I got
is right
one
and
for
wrong? Basic colors. Go ahead.
If Jesus Christ appeared to you in not in the flesh and said, "I'm a solipsist," what do you do with that?
Well, that's a hypothetical, and I don't need to follow that further than right now and choosing to say if you have a case for that, make it. Otherwise, you're just bringing in circumstantial hypothetical doubt. That's meaningless. That's how you handle a solipsist. They just want to bring in creative doubt and go, oh, that's a conundrum. No, have them make a case for it. The solipsist will say something like, "Oh, what about Descartes' demons? How do you know that the voice of God isn't a demon?" And so forth and so on. Well, you just ask them to make a case for that. When they try to make a case, you ask how they gather knowledge and understanding of any sort of objective reality.
In this literal case, though, Christ is the exact like he is the Word of God, right? The spoken word, the logos, which gives all reason and identity. Literally, would probably be the one mind, if we in the flesh for that.
A big concept, yes.
So that's why I think like I don't know how I don't think I can reject that from if Christ said I'm a solipsist, because how could you? He's Jesus Christ. He's the one who has a relationship with God.
Sure. it doesn't make sense at all anyway for him to say that. But like you're trying to
Oh,
paint a case where he's like visits me in the middle of the night and I'm overwhelmed and he says that. What do I do then? Isn't that what you were doing?
yeah, I guess so. I can see what you're saying. Like I said, the Trinitarian sense gets funny when you think about what God's mind uh constitutes. And I tend to think that God doesn't necessarily have a mind, like an operational mind like humans, in the fact that he's omniscient. There's nothing of thinking going on to God. God doesn't need to plan anything because it's already all known.
Yeah, it's not about
So
thinking
it's
and
like
believing, with that's
like
just man trying to anthropomorphize God in a lot of cases.
right. And I wouldn't say the spirit is engaged in the mind, uh all in part that it does in a creaturely sense. And that's only again because of Christ, who comes into a creaturely sense to have mind, to be known. And that's why it gets like that. It's one cases for the Sala in Christ's image, of course, like I said, because it could only be in Christ's image. They wouldn't be able to, because everything that is made for him, through him, and you know that kind of equals, hey, yeah, this is all mine. And if we're in that solipsistic paradigm, if we're in his world, which we are, then we are into his creation, how he set it up. And
But I think the solipsism is a secular philosophy, which Paul warns us about. So to try to bring that into Christianity is a misstep in itself.
well, I don't know if he says it directly in the word solipsism, but you'd
Well,
have
it's
to guide me in that.
solipsist would start without God. It would not claim that God is the creator, that they have knowledge of God. That would all be suppressed. So Paul would speak out against that. It's simple to me in that
I
fact
would
that you can't merge those two things.
I would understand that again in the creature sense, correct.
But there
But
is
when
no
we're
God,
talking
there is no theological solipsism, is what I'm saying to you. You're trying to make that, I guess, but you're
through, well, that's the hard part, because of the ordering principle of logos and these words existing in reality. Obviously, God wants us to use these terminologies because why do they exist? Either to they exist for us to know Him better, know Him more, or to not know Him more.
right.
Why would He not want us to know
What
Him
I'm
more? It
telling
just
you,
seems
you
weird.
need to let go of this secular thinking and apply more presuppositional thinking. Start with God every time.
Well, I think that pretty much what I'm saying is
Oh, really?
a necessary precept. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I notice you do that move a lot. Like, oh, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's just what? Why are you doing that?
It's a presuppose because again that God
Why
the
you say
Father
why you
does
say
exist.
again? That people do that too. They say again, like you didn't say that before.
Oh, you're right. You know what? You're correct. I didn't physically say it, and I didn't manifest it from my words. I
Oh,
thought it was implied through
you said it.
what I was saying.
Okay, well that's an obscure again then, isn't it?
That's fair. Yeah, I
Okay.
can't. And yeah,
All right. I don't want to fight with you though. Anyway, you know what I mean. I just I get to a point sometimes with what's happening is like I'm thinking, um, your position is something like keeping an open mind and exploring new ideas. What I'm saying to you is that worldview is like an agnostic in a sense that there's really not a true agnosticism, but you want to float there for some reason. It's still interesting to me what your actual ground is. And I'm guessing you don't really know. You
well, my
can't really
my
say.
ground is God. Obviously,
Yeah,
it
but that
has to be
that that
honest.
entails an objective ethical system that's entailed with ontology itself. The existence of reality is reliant. The way it's been created, it's relying on the response and the interaction of the creature, which leads into all sorts of behaviors. just from identifying objects in reality.
Right. The as I was gonna go into this, you kind of cut me off, which is fine. I think this is where it goes into ace theo territory, whether or not it gets deterministic. If it's all predetermined already, like the words I'm choosing, whatnot, and I don't have a say, then that's the case. If we do have the freedom and will, and I am choosing what I'm saying, and I think I'm choosing what I'm saying, then there's that free will. There is the distinguished eyes that exist. There's the eye that is God, and there's the individual creature eye that is the image. And whether we have a choice to um, reflect him or not, or we choose is what I mean, not choice. I think that was bad. I guess it gets given the choice, right? Yeah.
Well, if you're going to go like hard determinism, you're going to have to toss out knowledge and behavior, right? Those are things that are mechanistic.
Right, like those things they don't apply to the situation because it's already the case.
Do you know what knowledge and ethics are as far as basic philosophy? They're fundamental pillars, right?
I think so, yeah.
You got ethics, you get epistemology, which is knowledge, and you know the other one too. You've mentioned it tonight.
With me,
Being.
yeah.
The nature of being is what?
Oh, don't test me like that, man. I hate
Okay,
that. It's fine. No, I'm saying I get on the spot. My brain goes,
it's metaphysics. It's ontology. You mentioned ontology earlier.
Well, yeah, I never learned this stuff, right? I'm not publicly educated. I'm not formally educated. I'm just layman.
Well, it's just I tend to think in this way now, and it keeps it very basic and simple because you're pointing out that A is throwing out two of the basic pillars right off the cuff with the hard determinism. There's no knowledge and there's no behavior that you're responsible for. There's no ethics.
So right, because it eliminates the actual you.
Yeah, that too. There's the ontology of the existence of you that gets depleted because of that. Very good.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where ergo goes back to the solipsism. There's no identity in you. You're a solipsism by definition because everyone is God, essentially. In Ace's Verdi, like that is the case. Like there is no separation in that. And then with just again, like you would argue, God arguing about himself. And like I'd say, well, the caveat into that, you say that if we're all God, that there's salvation, but the God that wants to destroy the hearts of God that aren't good, what do you do with that? Because it's also, it's also God, and that is God's will to see it done. And so it's not a contradiction because there cannot be a contradiction of that. If God wants to destroy himself, he's free to destroy himself. If God wants to save himself, he's free to save himself.
Well, he is bound, though, by his character, by his revelation. Like, if God wants to lie, he's not going to lie type of idea. I don't know. Again, when you say...
Yeah, lie can't exist between, like...
it's a strange... It's sort of, again, like anthropomorphizing him. Like...
Yeah.
So... I guess, in a way, are you meaning to... show Ace that he's actually a solipsist? Is that where that would be moving?
To a certain degree, yeah, he would have to be underneath his hard determinism. Like, I think if you're a hard determinist, that you have to juxtapose some type of solipsism that God is the only mind, and we're just replications of that. There would be no other argument out of it because we don't have a will or an identity in that we're all God.
I mean, I think it's... You're getting creative there. It's even more complicated to a group that is not even understanding the simplest of contradictions. But I don't know. Want to?
I think Greg would be like, "Yes, that's fine."
That's exactly the position. Is everything is fine no matter what. That's what you want to hold them to if you want to have some fun with them. You say the most outlandish things and get them to act outlandish and then go, but everything's fine, as you said earlier, and I'm grateful for that because I thought there was a problem for a minute. You could do that over and over and over, and it's valid. And you become pointed at as absurd for pointing that out, and all you've done is follow the absurdity of their worldview.
Right. But yeah, I don't think I'm leaning towards hard determinism in that case. I hope not.
I like how you're like you bring it up. We've talked about it before. We reevaluate its absurdity, and you're like, I hope I don't go that direction. Like, what is? You're just floating in the wind like Forrest Gump feather.
Well, I mean, like,
Somebody land
if
this.
it happens to be a case, like because again, I'm not talking from position of knowledge. I'm just making
There happen.
trying to make
I
an
think
argument.
I notice you guys think like, oh, but there just may be a case. It's kind of like, oh, so you're telling me there's a chance. It's
Oh, yes, because there's a healthy dose of reality that's called thinking things are spiritually given by the Holy Spirit and from God, and you telling yourself this because you're learning about it. And I think it's a very healthy diagnosis to separate that two, and
yeah,
then
but see,
because
we
at
would
that point,
challenge. We can challenge this idea of the healthy diagnosis and the separation. Like, what is that based on?
I don't think most healthy people or people that are inclined to be insane care about those things.
Yeah, well, I mean, is that
It's preserving the identity for one, right? If you think you're already in line with God, what do you care about? It doesn't make sense to in my that's the way I perceive that, at least. I could be inaccurate, but
doesn't Ace think that way?
I haven't
That
observed
he's
him in
in
a
line
while.
with God more than anyone he would know?
I don't necessarily I don't know. I haven't watched him in like
Well,
two
dude,
years.
you don't 2 years. Come on, dude. I mean, you have watched him within 2 years, but probably not nearly as much as me for sure, or Jill. But anyway, yeah, so
I watch him through your channel if that's what you mean. Yeah, but I don't physically like go over to
well,
his
you've been
thing.
blocked for a long time, but otherwise, I'm
Right.
sure you would.
Yeah, I go in, I'll check and see, but that's about it. And if I'm
I
still
think
blocked, I'm like, okay,
I think you might
go
be
away.
too confusing for people because it's like everything's on the table, it seems like when it's talking to you, like, why are we taking anything off the table? You know what I mean?
Um, I mean, that's your opinion. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to move somewhere here. Like, don't you hold up some sort of assumption that everything's on the table?
I need you to define what you mean by everything's on the
Okay.
table.
Yeah, like you don't want to write any ideas off or any worldviews off. You go, well, they're telling me there might be a chance that nihilism makes sense type of idea.
For a nihilistic God, there potentially could be, yeah.
Oh, yeah. A nihilistic God. So a God without meaning.
Yeah,
Come on, dude.
meaning is necessarily prescribed. Like it goes back to brute fact. If God just is, it's not a meaning. There's no meaning into God. It's just because God is.
Well, this is a fine
Meaning
example.
almost like implies like an emotion to it
This
to a
is a
certain
fine
degree,
example
but
of what I'm trying to point out here. Is it's almost like in your worldview, I'm just trying to say this observationally, not as much as like a criticism. That you tend to go around and say, well, any idea is valid as long as it gets brought up in a sense. Or I can't write anything off because it could have another component that I've missed or that I'm not aware of. So everything's kind of on the table. Like you haven't written any worldview or anyone's position as absurd, written it off. Like as much as you think you could attack Ace, go after Ace, easily refute him, you still keep him on the table. Oh, you might be right. Isn't that true?
the hope for universal salvation is called apokatasis, and that's something to look forward to in Token Olam, the great work. I mean, that could be a
Yeah.
potential case, although people should
Okay.
face um
certainly
salvation. Yeah.
you'll reject some things or write off some things. Like you're not going to leave the possibility that Satan's God of salvation,
No,
are you?
no.
That's good. They're making
That,
progress.
which goes back again, like I said, the hard solipsism, because that would imply that.
Well, it always goes back to that. You kind of remind me of Ace in that sense. He's always
What in the referendum?
he's always redirecting to his memo of the day, like the way you're redirecting to solipsism. I'm just
Well, I'm
having
just
some
saying
fun.
that's because of this that what I was pointing out to.
Yeah.
Because if God actually, because again, the God is Satan doing everything else. Every character is God at that point, which gets into absurdity.
Well, how does one recognize that if that's the case?
You necessarily wouldn't be able to from
So if they're
anyone's one
promoting, if you,
position.
that's right. So if someone's promoting that kind of stuff, that's exactly what you would say. The possibility of you promoting what you're trying to doesn't work. Period.
You'd be a character at best. Someone composes and does, which goes back into the whole theater frame
Who would you?
and stage frame.
Yeah, but the character has no recognition of that which he is one of. And when I say one of, I mean as an entirety.
You'll have to go a little bit deeper than that, because I'll be honest, my brain went to like Superman doesn't know that he's Superman, which is to say Superman doesn't know that he comes from a comic, that he's inside of a comic book
Well,
created
when you
by
have
blah blah
when
blah.
you have the monistic or the all is one philosophy,
Okay.
you you can't grant yourself the distinction to point out your observation of that and speak on the matter. You're part of the one. If that's not speaking to you, let me know. I try to say it in a different way or think of it differently.
I
It's
kind of I kind of get it. Like you're part of the one, so
where are you going to distinguish yourself from it and point to it and tell me about it?
because there wouldn't be one, correct?
You've made a distinction, so that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's weird how some of these
would
long-lasting religions are founded like that. Hinduism and Buddhism, similar in the fact that all is illusion,
yeah,
but this guy's making a distinction to give you that truth outside of the illusion.
I was just gonna say, like, that's kind of reminiscent of what you get with like Greek gods, like Zeus coming down in old form, of animals and doing whatever. And
Oh,
like it's kind of like what I'm saying is like it goes back into what you're saying, the part of the one where that part is a character of the one. So like the bull coming down does is that the bull uh in this case, however it's done through materialistic means, it's said in story form for the Greek gods, but I'm just saying an example of that, like would we be characters of that one and not be able to how do you call it, role switch, so we can't go back to the original part because we're in this part currently, like you are in the part, I'm in that part.
it's
i'm
like
not i'm not Yeah.
modalism in a sense, I think.
And if that,
You're,
like, if we're each a character but still the one, then we're all just characters of that one.
I think that's
I think
what
that's
the
how I would go.
universalist is thinking, where they might be wiser, like, oh, I see what you did there, God. You're controlling me, and I'm focusing on me, I, as though I have an identity, but I know it's all one, and you're running the show. They try to push that like lack of self, right? Focus on God. But the problem with taking that position and thinking it through and trying to make a case is that you haven't thought it through, because
Oh
you
yeah.
can't both be God and then make the distinction and tell me about this illusion of self at the same time.
It
It's a
acts. It gets kind of ironic because there's the kenosis of it as all right, the emptying that gets portrayed, like God empties himself into creation, and Christ, ergo the world. And so in our identity, we empty that out into the world for Christ's recognition. You know, it's a what I mean by identity, I meant as Christians. My bad. So let me say that because I realize like, I'm not talking about the personal. I mean the group, the Christian group. Um, our identity comes back to that notion, the emptying out, the confessing, the testimonies, to the source.
Yeah, is
And
that Second Philippians?
it might be. I'm not well versed. I haven't read. I'm not. Yeah, I haven't gone up and like that in a while. I probably should. I was thinking about doing it with my kids this summer, actually.
Yeah,
Going through it.
should.
I mean, like I'm going to. I'm trying to plan a good like way off the bat, and I'm just gonna start through Genesis and then go through the
Yeah,
questions.
the revelation of Christ, the Trinity, is the unique part of the Christian worldview that moves the argument beyond all other religions. In fact, that is how you have the personal revelation from a personal God that walks with us. That's the difference between all the other
Well,
religions.
not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily, including Islam, and including all
If
these pseudo Christianities.
I believe I might be wrong on this, but I believe in I don't know if it's Mesopotamian or Persian or somewhere around there. There's the there's another triad of like father son, not and something, and I don't know if it's mother motif, but there's the triad of the godship, not in the same context of
Huh.
uh salvation, but definitely that same triad image. I just can't
Well, see, but
remember their names.
right there, though. Well, you have that in Hinduism too. I'm
Oh,
trying to
do
remember.
you?
It's like you have a Krishna, Brahma, and Brahman. The problem with it is that we're pointing to the walk of Christ and the salvific revelation.
Correct, right, yeah,
So
that's
that
what
is a
sets it
distinct,
apart, yeah.
right?
That's why I didn't know you were talking specifically of the salvation. I thought you were talking just like the Father,
Well,
Son,
yeah,
Spirit motif.
there's more to talk about there, sure, but yeah,
Yeah.
that there is a distinct. Um, I mean, there's a huge distinction there because that's the revelation of knowledge. That's the unique frame of argumentation that's used. Because epistemology is huge. That's what we were just talking about in Hinduism, in Buddhism, and these all are one. They're going to chuck out epistemology and knowledge. They're not going to be able to make a distinction of that which they're a part of being a whole and claim that they are a distinction of that and point to it while they're a part of it.
That was funny.
It's well, let me think about this for a minute because I mean, I'm thinking of hard determinism as well. Like the knowledge is impossible in hard determinism. Not necessarily. I mean, I'm thinking like not necessarily in monism, but you can't even get into knowledge in monism because you're already granting yourself a distinction that you're claiming isn't there. Yeah, it's strange to me how simply broken down a lot of these world religions can be, and that goes for all the other worldviews. Really, there's only so many things you can choose. Do you ever think of it like that, like a monistic and all is one versus like an atomistic, like it's all particulars versus Christianity? There's not really that many choices. There's 8 billion worldviews, but as far as like the very fundamental conditions, there really aren't that many categories.
Well, there's that, yeah, and the mix and choose that everyone else does, right?
But they're all still going to fall. It's like these new logics that emerge, right? Like people try to have complex conversations about various types of logic. They still fall back on the three fundamental laws, right? You can't talk about the logic or identify things within the conversation or do experiments that don't rely on identity and non-contradiction, right? You're not going to escape the classical laws of logic in whatever you're doing or talking about, is my point. Can you think of a case?
Um, deep symbology.
Deep symbology, you're going to recognize the symbol as the symbol, for starters. That's
Right.
classical law of identity.
But that's where it gets wompy. Like what I mean by that, like deep symbology, like
Why does that
where-
look? Why would that
oh,
subvert the law of logic, the law of identity?
have you heard of it? Because okay, it's like there are certain images. I forget what they're called. I think they're called like coat of arms. Sometimes do this within their works, flags. I think too. But there's certain things and in the shape and formalities that mean something,
Sure.
and there's a lot of implications into that because shapes and forms have different meanings. And so like you could have a symbol that means multiple things at once, but because people look at it and it means one thing, they'll catch the one meaning, but not its full meaning, if you get what I'm saying. So like,
Yeah, I do, but this does not, however, subvert or change.
oh, the laws of identity, yeah.
It's just
I'm
a
just saying
matter of identifying what you're identifying.
it seemed, I don't know if it would be contradictory for such a thing to have multiple identities,
No,
is what I'm saying.
no, and you're already assuming contradictions as a problem, you see?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is people try to complicate basic ideas like logic. Oh, there's so many logics, basic philosophy. Oh, there's so many worldviews. They really fall back into few categories. And it's interesting when you identify those things and start talking to anybody, you can realize they're going to fall in that category.
Well,
I
yeah,
think
okay, so that goes back to is not. Right?
is
That's it's is and is not, because yeah, that's just as simple as identity gets. It either is this or is not this. Or like again, so like you go to hammer versus a hammer being used for a nail or a murder weapon. Is there a contradiction into any of that? No, there isn't, right? But
right.
it's still objectively a hammer, even though the function of a hammer is to be used for nail, and its misalignment is for murder. Right? I think that would
Right.
be the argument in that.
Well, you're talking about like the ontology of something versus the usage of a thing, which going to get into behavior
Yeah.
and ethics.
Right, which goes back into the like I think we can compare ourselves in the tool essence of with God and our decision to align with Him and function in His will
Well, that's
versus
right.
right
You can be
and
a
then
tool. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. No, you
You
got the
can be a
idea.
tool and you can be an interactive tool. Like these people don't want to think that they don't want to see both of those ideas. They don't want to see the dimension of that, right? Like, yes, you can still be a tool for God and not fully programmed, you know?
Oh right, yeah. God will. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, right? So
Yeah.
that's ultimately haha, non-believers suck it. Which goes back again, ironically, back into the hard determinism. And like it eats it up a little bit because again, it's by God's will that person, even though they don't identify with the Lord, yet the I is inside, unescapable, because even the worst that they do, God spins it in for some type of benefit for whatever the fuck He means. Sorry to be so blunt about that, but and just to compare it for Joseph and the outcome it had in the narrative.
Yeah. How is the determinist identifying with God? Right.
Yeah, like I meant like his will is inside that. Like that's like the determinist approach. Like not that it's hard determined, but determined. You know what I'm saying? Is that hard determined to everyone? I think at that point, but I said hard. I meant this just plain determinism.
Universal determination.
Yeah, I think so. Like in that case, yeah, that fits because it's by God's will. And then,
Well, I think there's a conundrum there and a paradox, maybe, with determinism, will, choice, all of that, because it's like it can't be worked out in the human mind. Like I think about it all the time, and I'm not saying it can't be because I can't work it out. I think I think it's that way for a reason, which points us to a different idea. It's supposed to lead us, make us behave in a certain way. Even as much as we want to ponder that, it's like, okay, things are determined, but they feel real. So the best I can do is act accordingly. This is real. Stop focusing on the fact that it's already determined by something, a mind I can't fully understand, and follow his word. That's what I think is the proper response to these impossible scenarios to work out.
yeah, and the way I kind of picture that is by following. Are you then supposed to be the identity, the I, the self, which is also the obedience? This is what I mean by crippling, like because you have different churches saying, what is sinful, what is not, what gets you into heaven, what doesn't, and that lies the problem. The set rules that man has governed over salvation. So, like, are we to be like drones, fall in line like soldiers for God, and we all look like the same cookie cutter? Or did God create different individuals to represent him and follow in a type of suit, but still individuals in their own right? And that's like the where it gets leans a little bit more solipsistic, because if it's more towards the drone one, then we really are just cookie cutters at that point. We're not we're to the same shape, but in that, even in that, cookie cutters don't have to be the same shape, but whatever.
Well,
I was
I
going for the pattern, the image is what I was going for, is what I'm
I
saying.
mean, I think you're laying out two scenarios there, and I think there can be more scenarios, and they could be both of those scenarios. But I think the individual might be not uh, as popular as you might think. Like the ecclesia is what is key, the gathering of the believers, like the individual nomad believers. I don't think those are prominent in the scriptures. And
Yes, they are. A good example is John the Baptist. Like that's
okay.
one of the prime one. And he came to give the message before.
Yeah, I'm saying like how many prophets are there? Apostles, disciples, compared to the rest of the population. It's a very small number, right?
Good two examples. Ezekiel, Hosea come to mind, and then around the appointed time of Judges, when there wasn't a central court, and the judges had to go around town to town to work because there wasn't a centralized court to everyone come to court. The judges.
Well, that sounds better, decentralizing power for sure. But
that'd be cool. Yeah,
in all cases, sometimes you have a small town corruption that can't be handled without outside source.
Yeah. Unless the corruption's that far too, then we're all screwed.
Well, in a sense, yeah, that's what death is telling us essentially.
Yeah,
but
time's ticking.
There's something you can do here. There's got to be. You have done things. People are bringing people into the world. I mean, come on.
All right. Yeah.
It's real. The solipsist, forget about it. He's telling me what is real. what is real? I don't know if anything's real. Well, you can do that in your corner. Otherwise, you can construct an argument, make a case as to why you're disputing me and arguing with me. The solipsist puts himself in a mental cell in a straitjacket. So I think it's fitting that that's understood. That's
I
where he
think like
is. I don't know how often you go visit people in the psychiatric ward, but it's up to you.
well, we are supposed to meet people in jail, we're commanded to, so
Well, what do you mean by that?
even that you where where Christ says, what must I do? And he's like, I knew you not when I was hungry, you did not feed me, you did not clothe me, you did not come to visit me while I was in prison. I would imagine being in a mental hospital is the same thing as being in prison for some, especially if
Perhaps
it's
worse.
involuntary. Yeah. So I would imagine that goes to that effect. So if you do not visit him in prison, then what are you doing, right?
Yeah, I mean the mental
It
ward.
actually goes back to the solipsistic identity
Of
more.
course,
That's actually more of a stronger case. Crap. I
of
just
course.
realized that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
That's
creepy.
talking though. I got you.
Well, because that's him directing him in that case, right? You did not visit me. There's that identity there. I wasn't even trying to reach for that, honestly. It just naturally occurred.
Well, if
The
you're
case.
harsh to anybody, including someone in prison, that's a harshness to your brother. It's a harshness to Christ. Period. So you know Cliff Conekla. You know the Coneklas. Cliff
Oh
was
yeah. With
Cliff would go visit people in jail, people on death row. I like that guy. He spends decades on college campuses. That's not the easiest task. Take a lot of persecution.
especially with the crowd, you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, he's a pretty nice guy actually.
They're not bad Bible. I've been inside the slammer, I guess if you want to say that, for like whatever, 15 days or whatever. Um, and it wasn't too bad going to the Bible studies. It was pretty interesting.
What's that recently?
Like last June or whatever, July, June.
Oh, like the
I,
summer stuff. Thinking about doing it again.
I might have to actually. They're actually trying
Yeah.
to they're trying to remove my probation uh
Wait,
or
what?
something. I don't know. I guess I was behind on a fine, like an old fine, and I literally had just gotten to paying it, and it was weird. So I'm like, the fine is paid. Why are you trying to revoke my stuff because the ticket's fine is paid? Like that's what it said on the summons. Like they had a summons, and I was like, okay, let me lawyer up, or public defender in this case, but still, like I need to make sure that I'm not gonna get this doesn't make sense to me. Like I'm on probation. Like I'm not out of probation. So what's the problem?
Hmm.
It's a really weird scenario. But yeah.
So that has to do with you might have to go to the summer event.
Yeah, SummerSlam again. Yeah. SummerSlam.
SummerSlam. What is that from?
WWE, I think, right?
Yeah,
If it
I
happened,
I like watching some of those guys do the impersonations. Like what's his name? I mean, Will Sasso and the other guy, Dan Soder. You know those
yeah.
dudes?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was good. I remember like this is Kenny Rogers, this is Jackass. Like that was always so funny.
Oh,
Love
did you ever
physical
hear
comedy.
you ever hear Jerky Boys tapes? That's pretty. That might be before your time.
No.
Like, hey, this is Kissel. And
No, I
his
don't think so.
prank calls is awesome. That's
I've
pretty
I've
cool.
I've watched something a little bit more.
I heard somebody Sorry, go ahead.
No, I thought like jerky, like it's just a bunch of prank calls and stuff. It's like, is it reminiscent to like Jackass or anything like that?
I mean, it'd be stuff that they would have listened to as kids, likely.
Oh, I
Like
don't
they
know
would
that.
know what it is. They'd be like, "Oh, those dudes are awesome."
You know what I'm saying? Like Jackass, right? The
Yeah,
MTV
yeah.
show
I'm
or
saying like
whatever.
Knoxville and all those dudes.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
Bam. I still like watching Bam today. It's kind of good to see him rehabilitating, getting back into skating. He's kind of just a character to listen to anyway. Like he's intense, but oh no, it's not like action packed. It's actually like a cassette tape of like prank calls.
Oh wow.
It's just really well done. Good impersonations of characters.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about other stuff. Like I'd seen this. It's more morbid. It used to be called bum fights.
Oh, dude,
Um,
that's kind of rough, dude. Like that's the
yeah,
whole
that
thing about
stuff.
like visiting like Christ in jail, like going petition like desperate winos to hurt each other for a few bucks, get it tattooed on their forehead for $200.
Right? Yeah.
Was that? I mean, I did see that court case. Like, guy had fights like boldly written on his forehead, and he was all upset. And he's like, "Yeah, they paid me $200. They took advantage of me. You know, I think I was like intoxicated and desperate." And the kids are like even kind of just laughing in front of the judge. It's pretty disgusting, dude. Like the level of the way they think about other human beings. Like,
Oh,
oh, they're
dude.
just
Yeah.
down
Oddly
in the
enough,
grave.
that was like my bread and butter growing up. Like late at night when my mom would run off to work, I
I'm
would
raised.
I would watch that. Yeah. Well, my brother and like my neighbors were the best influences, right? So like I was just little kid following Big Brother around, and Big Brother, had neighbor next door neighbor kids. So just
I
that
just think
the
about
way the
that. I
dice was
think
rolled.
about that stuff very differently. Like when people find that entertaining, it brings pain to me.
It's the exploitation now as an adult that sickens me, right? It's like fuck the falsity of charity is
Yeah.
disgusting.
Oh, I mean, it's. I mean, it's completely against God's order.
Yeah. I
I
didn't see
mean,
it like that as a fucking kid. I tell you that much. Fuck.
I know, but
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, you know, kids get raised and think in desensitive ways because of what they're seeing. They assume like that's the social norm in some ways. It's kind of sad. Like you're saying, as an adult, you know, you reflect back on it and see the exploitation, kind of the sadness of even if you've even maybe almost been homeless, like you're like, wow, that could be me. Like,
Yeah.
it, you know, so it's like, oof. But
Yeah.
we were
Makes
saying
me
before that, like
forget.
the Jackass, Cherokee Boys,
Yeah.
like Beastie Boys. Like when I heard License to Ill, I was young, not even in middle school yet. I was just like blown away. Like my friend had a cassette recorder, you know, and it was like the coolest thing I'd ever heard, dude. Nonstop listening to it, License to Ill. And there's just all these mentions of girls, booze, through the whole thing. I can't remember how many hundreds of times I must have listened to that as a young child. And then I reflect back, you know, on like late teens, early 20s, and like in my head, I completely wanted to live like that. And I'm wondering like how much of that hundreds of hours of Beastie Boys pumped into my head had to do with it. And I don't know, but I wonder.
Yeah, you programmed yourself. Like, this is who I'm gonna be.
I
That
mean,
image.
I was just infatuated when I heard it. It was like the coolest thing I'd ever heard. So, you know, I wasn't even necessarily taking in the lyrics to any degree that I knew, but I was just like loving it.
Yeah, my
But
my
you're familiar with the album at least? License to Ill.
I don't even know if I
Like
know the
you gotta
song.
fight for your right to party, no sleep till Brooklyn, Just, I'm sure you've heard it's
I may
classic.
have heard of them, yeah, but I can't name them or recall
So,
what
I
they
mean,
sound like.
you probably like it.
At least you're not like my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, who I love dearly, I still think he's a badass, even though he kind of slipped off the wheel um, after I first met him, I guess. Not he's not even alcoholic or a bad person. He just didn't apply himself, essentially, which is kind of sad because he has such. I think he had such great potential. He could have been a tattoo artist and he didn't pursue it. Um,
Why
because he
can't
was
you
really
now?
good. He went to go do a warehouse job and one of the other drivers slammed the trailer door on his fingers and he broke him really bad and he can't draw as good anymore. So he
Like a
shakes and he can't
permanent
do the
problem?
yeah.
Oh, dang. That would be like a guitarist nightmare too. Damn.
And he got workman's compensation out of it. You know, he gets lucky. Like I say, he gets lucky. He's actually unfortunate. What am I saying? He gets lucky. He's unfortunate. Um, that he's been hurt multiple times and had like had several workman's comp uh due to like injury. Poor dude. But like he used to listen. I'm straying off. He used to listen to what is it? I think it's called Top Gun, Danger Zone.
Yeah.
And he used to drive around in his Fiero. I don't know if you know what that car is.
Yeah.
Like an old school 80s car Fiero, and he just drive around in that on repeat, nothing but that song. Ride into the danger zone.
Yeah.
Dude, I'd take him hours. We just go cruising, and that's all we'd listen to. Like this is what you do, and that's what he did. That was him. You know, like fuck yeah, Greg. I love him dearly.
So we gotta contact Kenny Loggins and be like, hey, we got a case. We want to work out here, perhaps. You see this behavior of this kid listening to a Danger Zone 6,400
Yeah.
times in a row? Like, this is dangerous music, son. Yeah, Judas Priest had some cases against him. Better by me than you. I think if that's the name of the song or particular lyric within. A couple kids like took a shotgun to themselves, like lived through it. Crazy. So they just kept listening to that Judas Priest music over and over again. Dirty.
Cool.
It's
Not
hard
cool, but sorry.
interesting for sure. But they couldn't pin the lawsuit on Judas Priest. Ultimately, but I don't know. It's kind of like there's other ways to have it to think about that. Like, and there's subtle kind of experiments too. Like people put in a room and made to wait for a half hour with very positive music or even very light background subliminals of like good news in the background and just surveilling their behavior versus like a negative environment with maybe like some loud music or loud construction noise while people are waiting. It's different outcomes, just on the environment itself. So you can see those factors all through life. So you can imagine like that you're going to get a different view of the world if you spend your day at a daycare versus playing Grand Theft Auto all day and you go out into the world. You just have a little bit different view of the world, perhaps, that can't be pinpointed or just reduced to it's just a video game. Like I think you could learn a lot from someone playing a video game, like a parent does to a child. Watch how their child plays. A psychologist would be interested in that type of experimentation, like a therapist. Like, I'll play this game and see how you walk through a society. You start punching people, or you just want to talk to them. Like, you can gather from that.
A little bit, yeah. But most of it is escapism.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens when in escapism to where oh, you won't like that response. Never mind, I'll hush it. I'll say it. I said you won't like the response. I was gonna go into primate
Oh yeah,
uh
don't do evolution stuff.
you know, behavioral
But that's another
animal.
way for you to throw out ethics.
I don't know if you believe man is separate from animal or not. I think so, right?
Well, what
Because
do
of the
you think?
from Adam, yeah.
You think you're an ape?
I mean, yeah.
Oh. That's a dangerous philosophy too, because I mean, when it's not coupled with Christianity, might makes right, survival of the fittest. It's like Nietzsche said, really compassion would be weakness.
That's like a outdated view of it, the way I see it.
Well, no, it's not, because the philosophy makes sense if you consider that you're um, a biological process. I'm
Well,
saying
I
in a non-Christian view, a biological process that's moved his way into an environment. There's no grounding for the oughts. It just is scenario, which is a David Hume problem, which brings me back to something somebody said similar to what you said about Bonson one time in an atheist forum today. I pointed out that David Hume was pointed out the dogmatism in atheism in the problem of induction. The atheist assumes the future will be like the past, that there's a uniformity there that they can't account for. And the response was, well, that's stupid to quote people who died over 200 years ago. And then I checked out because I realized the level that I was dealing with.
don't know.
Why do,
Like,
why do
oh,
atheists ignore David Hume? You
I
want to
was
know
gonna.
why?
I don't know. Maybe they're not studied on him.
No, because he's the honest atheist. He's the guy who points out you can't get the is from the ought, showing that the atheist can't argue ethics, which means they can't argue has anything to do with what you ought to think, how you ought to behave, which they love to do with Christians. That's why they don't talk about David Hume. He's pointing out dogmatic problems within their paradigm that they can't solve, that they overlook on purpose just so they can argue. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, my view on it, like, evolution isn't like survival of the fittest or might makes right. I think might makes right on a different cause through Christianity now because of God, but I think evolution is um I read through behavior like the need to reproduce essentially. And that's the basic of evolution is reproduction. And if you have succeeded in reproduction and your offspring has succeeded, then that is successful evolutionary process happening
What do you think about
because
the
it's
process of the penis developing over millions of years? Are you telling me there was a being that had like a partial penis and then a partial testicle over millions of years?
well, theoretically it all depends on how far you want to get because it gets back into
It gets
rebus
back
type
into
of
what's somebody's made.
rebus.
It doesn't get back anywhere in science. It's an inductive philosophy that says, well, let me see if I can travel in my mind a billion years back.
I was gonna say, well, it doesn't matter if it's a billion years or 7 days, to be honest.
No, it does, because a billion years is a reference that we've never experienced, whereas 7 days is something we can understand a little bit better for starters. Look, the whole thing is like you can't have a working organism without
I okay,
you've got
so
these organs that rely on each other, right?
there's a problem in what you said with the 7 days thing.
Okay, well,
Let
it's
me
not a big
try to
deal.
explain it.
It's not a big
I
deal.
think it is because like a lot can happen in 7 days,
I
an
know.
infinite amount of things. So to just say yeah, 7 days, it might as well be a billion years because a billion things can happen in set amount of time,
Well, I
including
didn't
like
realize
prolonged destruction.
you're
I'm just
making the
saying.
Genesis reference there. But the thing is you're trying to be on both sides of that, a biblical student and an evolution student. So you're the one confusing the matter.
I don't think it's a confusion. I think it's based off
Well, I do.
qualification. I think it's based off logic and logos and principle and how these things came about.
What do you mean
Because
based
everything
off logic? Logic is a consistency tool. What is
uh,
based off it?
I
What do
said
you mean?
logos. If I said logic, I meant logos,
Okay.
which it goes into logic because it
Well, logic is
logos is foundational to logic.
sure.
It depends
Um,
on your definition of logos. I'll give you that in
the
some
thing about
forms of
this, like
framework.
organisms, like slowly developing a liver, and kidneys, and a heart over time, it doesn't work. Those things need to be in place.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a chicken and egg problem. But the only problem is like you're saying they need to be in place,
they work.
and
They work together. They can't be separate. They can't be slowly forming over time and developing. They they need to be in place. And it there's a. I mean, it's a form of a trinity in the
what do you think?
biological system.
Can I ask you? This might seem like a silly question. I don't
I
know if
love silly questions. I love
uh,
obvious questions.
it has to. What do you think of DNA?
When I think of it, that's
Yes.
a very broad question.
Like, do you think it's an actual science behind DNA or no?
Yeah,
Okay, so you would agree that there are sequences in our chain that are that go to like on and off, and then some of them are off.
dormant, I would say. Sure.
Yeah, and so in lies that is where I'm going in that is that that same chain is has been fundamental since the beginning, and that is where the stored processes for those things are. I would say in every any given thing. And then whether that goes back into basic elements and manifesting into these life forms, I think that's very possible. But it gets into very nuanced ways of creation, mind you, like God speaking and then things being of spittle and whatever and like that. But it gets, like I said, into imagination land because you're trying to explain it of the origin of creation at that point because it goes into ontological ground.
The
Like,
animals in the garden, they would have,
go ahead, sorry.
the animals in the garden couldn't have evolved, right?
Theoretically, no. I would say the animals in the gardens
Well,
are would be
biblically,
selected.
you couldn't say yes. Biblically, you
No,
couldn't say yes.
I would say that they're selective animals to be named.
But the animals in the garden hadn't experienced death, so evolution would be off the it would be off the list for that. It wouldn't be compatible.
I don't know. Again, because your reference
Think
point
about
of a
it.
day, I think your reference point of a day of a yam, right? Because that's what it is referring to one Earth day.
No, no, no. It's this is not what I'm talking about here, though. I'm talking about the idea of death starting in the garden. That it doesn't follow a story of death leading into the animals that evolved into the garden. So evolution would have had to start, if you were trying to make an a biblical accommodation, in the garden after the fall of Adam. It doesn't work.
I don't necessarily see that as an issue.
Well, to maybe think about it more and talk about it another time, because I see it as a big issue, but there's other issues too. I don't really study it that often. I don't like it that much, but
Well, like I said, I think the animals that would be in the named in the garden would be selected considering
yeah. But
that
why is it?
I was just about to say, considering that our garden there you don't have naturally occurring gardens. Gardens are created. So,
Wait.
and the same thing for that principle.
Can
Since
you steel
every
man what I'm pointing out here, though? I don't know if we're on the same page. Can you steel man what I'm trying to say to you?
yeah, I think what you're trying to say is that because there's death that started off in the garden, that's a problem for the evolutionary chain because that's the starting point for all death entering the world. And so, how can you have millions of years of death
Yeah.
when there's entering the garden?
Yeah. I think so. I don't when entering the garden. Yeah, right. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Can
entering the garden because they're entering the
Yeah,
garden.
so that's what I'm saying, like, the simple idea of death starting in the garden, that's it seems like a a huge problem, a fundamental problem. But we can revisit it. It's fine.
It all depends on how you understand. Like you could say that Eden is like a place of a special place. It gets swampy, and then like the wilderness is the fallout of reality. So in the garden, there's no death because it's God's selected garden. But while the outside wilderness, you experience death because it's the chaotic nature of what goes on.
Okay, I'll ask you a little bit more of a psychological question regarding the matter, if you don't
Mm.
mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think happens, like, if tomorrow, like, you just wake up and you're like, "Okay, you know what? I see through evolution, I abandon it." And, does much happen for you?
Would much? I mean, my day to day, no, I don't think it would.
Yeah.
Pine Creek asked me the same question, like, and I said the same thing, like,
Huh.
what should be different in your day to day? Like,
But
I don't know.
he asked about evolution specifically in
No,
Christianity?
he was talking about being an atheist and a Christian. Like, what changes have I? I think it was what changes I had in my life
Okay.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what changes should there be? Like, I'm not like it's like to assume that as an atheist you're already a sinful person, which is weird coming from another atheist, right? It's like why would
We'll
that
talk about
living
an
yeah
obvious borrow.
right yeah it was a little bit weird to me. I'm like I don't think I there's any need for me to change, right? Like I'm not sinning. I wasn't a criminal. I was just a dude who was a janitor, right? So
Well, I mean,
I don't know, like
I I would push back on questions like that. That's why I proposed it as a psychological sort of question because that doesn't really get us to the truth or falsity of the matter. But when you ask a Christian that versus an atheist, it's like, well,
hmm,
the difference would be like I would be presupposing that God is the condition for all this, that this
yeah.
is his domain and his creation, and there's a certain absolute morals that go along with that. And if there's none of that, then I just over time, yeah, the behavior would change inevitably. Like all of a sudden, you've abandoned any meaning and purpose, right and wrong, into well, I'm just gonna design those things myself, like a system
Well,
building
I'm
atheist.
pretty nihilistic in that regard. Like I think everything don't have like an inherent meaning. Its meaning is given in that, but you don't have to hold to that meaning, which is in itself giving it meaning by not holding on to it. I hate that. But
Everything has, well, I mean, I don't think that
like Christ gives us meaning because it is his purpose to save us. That is his meaning is to save us. Now we don't have to have that meaning. Right? Okay, thanks, guy. Bye bye. Right? Uh, and I think that's the whole crux of it is that it's Christ wants to save us because he's seen what the fucking fallout of bullshit is, and this is why the Redeemer was needed in the first, in
well,
the
I'm
first
saying
place.
when you propose the idea, I'm kind of nihilistic about, you said, and then you consider
Uh,
the scripture. Is there any contradiction?
no, I don't think there's a contradiction because, like I said, it's an outside perspective that it is within God's will to save mankind. Ergo, I'm part of that and mankind. Now, in that, um, Christ's hands always it's stretched out, even if we turn away, right?
Well,
So
yeah,
you
you're
always
speaking
have
of
the
like
will to repent. Yeah.
the nature of something objective,
Right.
unchanged.
Yeah.
So
Because yeah, it goes back like if
you're going to
if
lose all
my
that. You're going to lose all that if you shift into nihilism or atheism, right?
no, I
No.
don't lose it. I what I mean by that, like that concept exists outside of me. It is already held. Even though I myself would not find meaning in it, there is meaning into it that I cannot take away from that. Like that goes for every other thing that has meaning. Just because I don't agree with said meaning, or it makes me feel meaningful in an emotional way, like or impactful.
You have to evaluate a standard of meaning in order to make that assessment.
Yeah.
So, what is that standard that you use to evaluate what is meaningful in the case you're speaking of?
In that case, like I said, the external others find it meaningful.
Others finding meaningful is not quite what I'm looking for there. Like I was asking what you're doing.
What
You're
I'm
giving
doing,
like
what?
an
Sorry.
observation of somebody else's conundrum, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Hmm.
If you put yourself as the a third position, like the outside man looking at every problem, then
If
you might help yourself get out of a problem because you're not looking. You remove yourself from the situation, so
well,
you're
no, you
detached
don't.
from it.
Do you?
It's a form of detachment.
Which could just be illusory, right? Like people detach themselves
Yeah,
because they can't handle the situation they're part of.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, that could be a reason. Yeah.
But they're not really detached. They're just not participating in what they're already in. That's dangerous, potentially.
Ooh, correct. Yeah, I agree with that. I felt a little jab at that. Not that you were intending to.
No.
I just meant like I think of that. I think of that of myself. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
knowingly I hold myself back, which I don't
Well,
mean to. It's more of a fear response, but yeah.
it almost sounded. It reminded me of like what you said with the debt. Is almost like a scenario like that. They're like, you had this debt you didn't pay. You're like, no, I thought I paid it. Like maybe you reflect it, or maybe you will and go, no, I kind of knew it was still outstanding. Sometimes that happens. Maybe not in that case, but that could be an example of like, I forget about bills, pretend they don't exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, no, I get what you're saying in that, like, common forgetfulness. I don't like when it comes to bills. I usually do that shit on automated. Um,
Yeah, you
because
really
it's
said you
yeah,
can do.
I rather have my shit taken out, go negative, than not have my bills paid. To be honest, I'd rather take the hit. That's how I always live. Like, fucking bring me down to millions. I don't care. I'll pay it back eventually. But yeah, I try practice detachment. Like, I don't try to keep ideas, plans, uh I leave that all up to Jess, which
Mm.
is like I don't want to keep to things, and it's like but I just leave that up, and it's not necessarily good for business. So there's some confliction in like characters for me being a business owner that I need to do these things because it's part of the society, even though it's hard. It's part of the gamble. So I gotta learn how to play the game better as a human instead of being like a what do they call the recluse
Yeah.
introvert. That's the word I'm saying, introvert.
Well, I mean, if you're an introvert, that's the way God made you. Because I know
Well,
what it's
yeah,
like trying to force extroversion, and it just seems like it's a matter of time before you become introverted or embrace the introversion. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings on that idea.
I think I can do it better online than I can do it in person because it's not
Yeah,
directly, so it's easier
yeah.
for me online.
Well, that I
Because
agree with
yeah,
that. There's something about like just focusing in on a
I can't do
auditory
it on phones
conversation.
though. I have phone phobia. I think it's because I used to do prank calls. I think it has to do with always getting like bad news, and it super fucking freaks me out. It super stresses me, and I'm connecting those dots, and it's like I have to get better, and sometimes I do. Um, but no, getting phone calls like fucking scare the shit out of me. Like fuck.
Yeah, but you could talk on a phone and do a stream, and it's not the phone itself that would be an issue. It's
Well,
still
this
an
is
auditory transfer.
yeah, this is a little bit different. See, this is a more of a passion because of the aspect of it, like
Well,
the yeah.
the platform that we're on, or the environment that you're in, yeah. But I'm saying, like, I guess I was thinking of it differently, like being in person, face to face, has a communication level that can be, talked about in many ways. But I find the deepest of conversations that if you can remove as many distractions as possible, including visual distractions, the presence of someone being right near you and the visual distraction, I think, get in the way, and they do for me, uh, for deeper conversations. And that's why I enjoy the platform, like never on camera and with as little bit of extra information as possible. So it narrows the field in a way where it demands focus. Like that's kind of the idea, the way I like to think about it. A lot of these things we talk about, like
Yeah.
I've noticed in the past, if I try to talk about, religious ideas and challenge people on these levels, like they can get infuriated. It can get even scary. People can freak out.
Well, yeah, it was weird when I first joined. I think that's why I chose the handle. Like this one guy goes into the uh what's the word? I'm gonna get it wrong. We say it wrong. Anon ship, if you know what I mean. Anonymousness. That's the word. Anonymousness.
Anonymity.
Yeah. Um, and not being known, but then becoming a Christian, like, and
Mhm.
undergoing it, I realized that you can't have a separation in identity and what you do because there isn't one, and it separates a boundary. And so there has to be some type of knowing, like if people are going to know you, they should know what you say, what you do, and be representative because it's part of the church in that sense. And if
Yeah,
the
I
whole
think
world is called to the nations and we are confessing out to the nations online, then we should definitely be who we are because that's all that we can be, right?
well, that's true. I mean, in this particular in a Christian position, the integrity is needed absolutely, and it's more mysterious and even suspicious if no one knows who you are, knows your name. So that there's a downside to that too. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a protection aspect, like Clark Kent, Superman, right?
Well, I mean,
Superman is still Clark Kent in the sense that he doesn't want that identity because he is Clark Kent, even though he is Superman.
Lois challenges him, like the original Superman film. She like jumps out a window when he's Clark.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think I
know.
remember that. Yeah, those are old school or good ones too.
Christopher Reeve.
Yeah,
Actually, he looked kind of badass as Bizarro. He had like the hat, like like the beard stubble and the darker look. He's all mad. The Bizarro version, like the badass version.
I don't know. I have to remember. I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just saw a couple of Superman clips like a couple months ago, um, but it's funny.
Well, I think online gets needed because you do have like those zealots out there that will be crazy and hound you and whatnot and terrorize your life because they don't have any except for having yours because all they can do is have consumption.
Yeah, that's something to consider.
But then they can go ahead and do is what I say, bite me. Sorry,
I mean,
bite me.
I never really said "bite me" to anybody. I think it's an odd sexual thing to say for some reason. Like when a guy says "bite me" to him, I'm like, gay.
That's a little word projection, bro. Just saying, but yeah, I guess so. I can see it.
What? Oh, why is it a
Because
projection? Why is it a projection though?
it's a colloquialism, bite me, right? It's not like
No,
it's like
I
80s
want
slang,
people
isn't it,
not.
or some shit like that?
I don't. It's just it's a technique of skepticism that I use so people won't say it to me. For instance, you can't really
Also,
rule it
like
out. Like,
saying that it's gay.
yeah, it's like a simple like influence tool. You know, like that's gay. Don't be gay. And then if they keep
Depends on
doing it,
how
then they
people
want to
treat
be
that word,
gay.
yeah.
So why do you want to be gay? I don't want to be gay with you. I just turn it into that. If they, because bite me comes up when there's no answer available anyway. So they're already destroying, you know, anything informationally exchanging.
The next time ASO says bite me, say I'm not actually biting you, I'd be biting God, which is biting myself. See what he does.
He's not gonna do anything. I mean, when you're dealing with someone who's like, "Oh, I don't care if that doesn't make sense. I don't care if I make contradictions. I don't know what the truth is." Like, what are you going to do with that?
I really want to have that conversation with Ace about like the solipsism one, but I'm afraid he won't even understand the terms, and I don't think he might see it as stupid and a waste of his time. But I wouldn't want to disrupt his essays either.
His
So I'm thinking about
seventh reading of how he doesn't like something Prey said to him. You wouldn't want to interrupt that.
no, I would not want to interrupt his schedule. Lord forbid.
Read it for the 9th time. Oh, let's make it 10. That's funny. Abacus was over there saying that.
Well, it's not bad if to proofread your stuff. I mean,
Oh yeah, that's one
treating
way
it
of
as a serious,
it's
right?
one way of saying that that's all you're doing. He knows he's using repetition to put inside the minds of his followers that Eric bad, Jill mean. You say it enough times, it starts to stick. That's what he's doing.
Well, before Ace, Jill had his own reputation.
I know that.
So, but
But I'm saying, like, it's not just one thing. Like, oh, he's just proofreading. That's all he's doing. Innocent Ace. Give me a break.
I mean, rhetoric can be a part of that. That might be a subliminal.
All his
thing.
theology is. That's why I've been pointing this out. It doesn't work. It only becomes rhetoric at best.
I think it's just a group of people who are disdain with Christians because they're traumatized and they view eternal salvation and everyone being saved because it makes them feel good and confident and
Sure.
get along with their day. So who am I to disrupt their soft reality with my hardcore blood written clothing that God has given me? It's not, maybe that isn't my place to let the toddlers be toddlers.
Well,
And if they're stuck in their own evil, then I can't save them themselves. I can only save myself and make sure I don't have a seat with demons.
I question some of your conclusions. I see some decent ideas in there, like why even engage? True, but also maybe there's sometimes where you can do something, like you said, speaking to the audience while talking to them, right? You make your point.
Yeah.
They're not going to change, but you're making a good point, good enough for someone to say, oh, yeah, that's, there's reasons. But, if you spend too much time with people acting foolish, it's only a matter of time.
The problem, I think, lies in where does it become a behavior battle and not a logic battle?
Well, interestingly enough, what is a behavior battle? What domain of philosophy is that in?
Where the whole you said X or so you're a big poopy head. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like
no, you got, but just fill in these little sidebar, these little points here though. Like when you get into just bickering over behavior, what domain of philosophy are you in?
What after that?
No, behavior. We're talking about the 3 pillars: metaphysics, epistemology, and behavior. It's a major category. The very category that you're saying they fall into like bickering and behavior, right,
Hmm.
is the very thing that most of them want to throw out. It's
Yeah,
it's ultimate irony.
because you can't have it goes back, I think, like I said, the cookie cutter, paper cutter, the cookie cutter shape. How yes, there is a cookie cutter shape, but there are different types of cookies. You know what I'm saying? In the
Uh,
individual cookie cutter shape, there are different flavors of cookies. Like as much as you can have different shapes of cookie cutters.
and then what happens next? I'm just trying to
That's
follow.
like that's what I mean. Like perhaps people are just set in their behaviors. So the argument of what a proper behavior is redundant when it's necessarily, like I said, it goes back to whether they're uh functioning in faith with God.
Yes, the irony becomes like
It's difficult. It
but
gets difficult because it gets into play of works almost. As a justification for a show of faith, right? Show me your faith, but with no, I'll show you my faith with my works, right? Is the old James saying that's always faithful,
mhm.
and it gets difficult because what is one man's work that God has allotted, and who are you to say this is the work you should do? Because it's through God's will, not what we think through that individual, or
Well,
what, you know
we
what I'm saying? Like
we
there's
might
obviously
not be
the
able to
fruits of the
know
spirit and all
exactly what
that.
there's we might not know what someone or a brother is supposed to do entirely, but we do have an idea of what they ought not to do, especially when they're doing that thing.
Correct. Like I was gonna say, the prime example, like the fruit of the spirit or the abhorrence of evil, is just automatically the go tos. But theoretically,
Yeah.
the fruits of the spirits are a gift, and not everyone receives said fruits. So even in that, if someone doesn't receive said fruits, does that mean that they're not saved? I don't know. I haven't looked. I
Um,
haven't studied enough
well, no,
into
we
that
don't want to
question.
judge whether people are saved or not. We don't want to judge people's hearts, but we can point out errors in reasoning and thinking and interpreting and promoting the scriptures.
Right. I think you should judge people's hearts to some degree.
Well,
And only in the as it says, judge as ye be judged,
like the doctor testing your blood pressure.
something akin to that. Like I'm not saying you go out there and be ruling over, right, over your neighbor or whatever. I'm saying though, give a good record
No,
in the
not ruling
judgment.
over. No,
Say that again. Sorry.
yeah, not ruling over, but whatever the judgment is, it needs to be done and considered in love. Like there has to be a presentation. There has to be a consideration for where they are and who you're talking to, and there has to be some sort of solution. And the solution is gonna rest on the faith and the hope and the love of Jesus Christ. But when you rebuke a brother, correct a brother, like you have to consider those things. You do so out of anger, with no uh, with no recourse, no conclusion in sight. Well, then you failed your brother. But when you do it with reason and fairness and concern involved, and you don't just rebuke, but you also give hope, give support to your brother, offer, that's different. But to ignore it because it's uncomfortable, you don't want to address it, that becomes a different problem. Ignoring what is evil. We're told to abhor what is evil. So we have a huge task at hand.
It also goes into like dusting off one's feet.
Yeah, yeah, that's there too, right? You knowingly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the forgiveness one. Forgive your brother 70 times 70. In the same, I'm saying in the same breath, those two need to be taken in both consideration. When there's a time to dust off your feet, and when there's a time for them to forgive.
Yeah, I think there's wisdom in understanding like any of those scenarios, when it comes to rebuking, they're all painful. And when you accept that, you start to realize that like
Oh,
love isn't avoiding, it's needed, and it's going to choose the path of least pain in the mode of working towards correction. Like that's the idea. Working with what's present, you know. We don't
yeah.
avoid pain and deny pain. We know it's part of life, so we work with it. We have moments of suffering that we can be in great pain and resentment and say, I will come out of this and I will come out of this stronger. It's things you would want to tell your child that you will want to tell them at certain points, right? You'll see them suffer. You'll know they're going to have to suffer. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's a. Do you think a parent owes their child something?
yeah, they owe them direction.
Hmm.
You know, they brought them into this world.
That's an interesting. I think the opposite. I don't.
You know what?
I don't think I owe anyone anything. Not even to
Well,
myself.
you should
It's
reconsider.
say for God. Like I mean, like personal philosophy, not Christian. Not Christian understanding, and where like my heart is just like personal philosophy in the sense like I need to overcome
No, no,
that mindset is what I'm
you
saying.
do because your child who's hungry says, "Dad, you owe me a sandwich." He's correct. That's what the man does. He goes and works and provides for his family.
Not necessarily.
Well, you want to bring in a scenario with somebody not doing that, or you want to understand the simplicity of what I'm saying. Your hungry child deserves a sandwich from you.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well,
Like I mean like in the sense
child
like
services begs to differ. How about that?
well that's true. They could get involved, but then again that wouldn't be an issue, right?
I know I'm just being funny, but come on, dude.
No, I'm saying like in that same scenario it wouldn't be an issue. Because again, if you don't owe the child, why would I owe the child? Why would I keep the child in that regard if it, in that mindset? Like because if obviously if they someone that is outside, it's not like the child is
Okay,
an
well,
actual
think
possession.
you don't think that you owe anybody anything, but you just had collections come and say that you owe them.
What do you mean collections?
Somebody came and collected money from you, so you would have owed them.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough,
Well, yeah, I guess so in that manner.
so the
If I have to,
child seems
I have to,
neglected, but then they get paid. What's going on
I
here?
guess so. Yeah, in that regard, yeah, I see what you're saying. But yeah, either way,
Hmm. Well, perhaps you're just conceptually trying to make a point with oh,
I was gonna go. I was
you
gonna
would
go
always give your
somewhere
child the
along
same,
like
you would give your child the sandwich, but you wouldn't want him to you wouldn't want him to feel entitled.
well, there's a weird one in that, like in this scenario, I'll go dark. Let's say like where there's nothing to eat, right? And I don't, there's no way I can get the kid a sandwich. Then what's then? Like, sorry, kid,
It wouldn't take
I
away
can't
what you need to
provide a
do,
sandwich.
but the whole idea of you needing to provide and not being able to rest on an idea prior to that's what you ought to do. You know what I mean? The evaluation comes from a set of ideas that you already hold in place. You know you ought to feed your child and nourish him. Ask a mother this. You know, she might smack you. You know what I mean?
Where you at, right? I get that. Yeah.
What's going on? What are you nuts? Feed the kid. And they nourish them, right? Like physically hold them in their body and share nutrients with them than their breast milk.
Shit. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I would get like, well, yeah. See, the mother feeds the child. I don't have tits to feed the baby.
Mother's milk.
Yes. There you go. Just give him that. No, like even in that sense, that feeding bit, like that's in that process, I can agree with you. Which it's kind of an odd position because to say to have a child without the ability to have a mother to feed it from the breast is kind of paradox. You get what I'm saying? Like it can only not happen in childbirth. Like if the mother dies and then you don't have a mother provided for that child, then you
Oh,
yourself are failing that child for not having the
you're saying
mother
if you
for
get the
the feeding.
breast, you don't owe the child anything, but if there's no breasts, then you do.
Right, because that's belongs the feeding belongs to the mother.
Ah, but the provisions of the
Right,
nourishment.
providing it.
But
I
hold
think
on, though. You're missing, like, there's still the wider scope, though, because you're still providing for the family, the shelter, the food for the mother in order for her to produce the milk for the child. So it's still there. Indirect.
theoretically that may or may not be the case for any individual. Not for
Well,
my case. I'm not putting myself in that, but yeah,
it
I'm just
may or
thinking
may not be.
hypothetical.
Yeah, it may not be the case that you're doing that, right? But I'm saying I would just look to the establishment of the union of man and woman, to be there for one another, to bring a child into the world. Like, it's established that they're working together, they're a working unit. That's how the child grows.
Theoretically, it's
It's,
based off more. I agree with you. Like the mother and father are foundational, but the whole saying it takes a village, which means there's the other mother father, there's the mother father, and if there's any aunts or uncles, and then other siblings, and definitely grandparents to also step in, and that will provide for said individual.
I would say the grandparents are key in
Yeah.
direction, like I was
Oh yeah,
brought up
dude. Yeah.
earlier, because of the wisdom of just living longer. I mean, hopefully that's the case.
No, I agree with you because there's generational wisdom that's provided unto the child that we don't pass on. It's very, and then there's stories from there that are carried on. Um, and that's
Yeah, I
important.
think
Just
Western
the
culture
knowledge,
probably has the biggest issue with appreciating, older
the family
generations.
union, yeah, and all that, and the how close my grandma's really big on it, and our family's separated, but she's always big on the family being like super together because without it, there's no control, and one part struggles while the other one succeeds. Should not be so.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, like even in that regard, because knowing this, I am not needed to fulfill that role because that role is going to be provided for. Like if I remove myself from that scenario, that role is going to be provided, and if it doesn't get provided, then
Well,
like you can
that's
special plead
assumption.
like you're the only one there taking care of the kid, and then if you
I
like go to
mean, that's
jail,
quite an assumption
whatever.
for a
But
father to make, though. Like, well, if I'm not there, somebody else will do it. Like, that's kind
yeah,
of
it's
like
because there should be a mother, like legit, right? And I would if we go
should be.
to infant, uh, yeah,
Um, well, yeah. How else will the child be there?
yeah. If there's an infant, there should be a mother, right?
I'm
Unless
t-
there's a death.
I wonder if two men adopting a baby, like Adam and Steve, if they carry that same type of mindset, like ultimately, like
Well, I'm pretty sure if they can adopt a baby, they can hire a nanny to take care of the baby for them.
yeah,
Sorry, right?
oh
You
yeah,
have to be pretty expensive to get a baby, not just Joe Schmo. So I imagine they can afford good health care and a nanny too. I mean, that's another thing, right? Wet nurses exists. I could just use that as an argument. No, I don't need to feed the wet nurse. Fucking feeds the kid. I can hire somebody to feed it, but in ergo, it juxtaposes you're providing it for it, even though you're not physically meant doing it,
there you go.
and that's what you're leaning on. But it's more or less the physical act of doing it, right?
Well,
Is
you're
where
participating, but see
yeah, the
that's what.
participation like that.
But see, you see, the responsibility doesn't actually shift. You're just putting in middlemen and moving the parts around. Whatever happens falls back on you. Like, you chose the wet nurse or whoever, and something goes wrong. That was your choice to put them in that position and so forth. So it still rests on you as the father providing.
Yeah, in that scenario, yeah. Even if you get someone else to do it, yeah,
Well, in
you're
all
still
scenarios
providing.
is what I'm saying. Like, why would the father's responsibility disappear in any scenario? Except back to maybe that, like you were saying,
Well, if he's not the father, right?
no, he is the father. It's like a disconnection, right? You were saying earlier, the disassociation, perhaps.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like what I'm saying in that regard. Well, I said that like that you like if two couples are married, I just threw in a wrench there. If two couples are married, but the child isn't the father's, should you
Yeah.
take care of that baby?
Well, I imagine
Or would
so.
you abandon that baby? Right? Would you abandon that baby in the with that mother and the mother because that baby isn't yours?
Oh, like she cheated on you type of
Right?
scenario?
Yeah, yeah. But you're the father, right? Because
For
on
like,
paper,
oh, on paper? Well, no,
yeah,
if you find out about the infidelity, it's up to you. It's a huge error in the union. Absolutely. I mean, the infidelity is one thing, but to bringing a child into the world with a stranger because of a sexual desire, that's your choice whether you stay. But the man that stays, wow,
yeah.
something.
Yeah, that is. I agree with you. That's powerful because I agree with that sentiment. Like, I think that's a principle for adoption as well. Like one who truly can adopt takes on that same principle as a man taking raising a kid that isn't his, and knowing that it isn't his.
Yeah, the scenario with the adulterous wife though is much
It's
more
terrible. Yeah, it's
heated.
terrible.
Is much more implication with it. But yeah, there is a similarity, of course. It's not your biological creation.
Theoretically, a Christian male caught in that position has an onus to take care of that since he's been thrown in the father's role of that child. I'd argue that position, but that's actually again that's works based. There's nothing in the Bible that says you have to fucking take care of this fucking kid that isn't yours. In the so and that's where the ethic and the faith conundrum comes into argument. But also, like I said, the personal philosophy doesn't resolve around Christianity. It's the I don't have ownership. They are not my children. Not that I'm not biologically related to them. I am. They're biologically mine. I just don't claim ownership like that. I don't want to own my kids like that. I don't want to become possessive over my children. My mother is very possessive over me, and I don't want to be like that with them. So
I see.
yeah. They are their own individuals. They are responsible for themselves. They are brought into this world. I will help guide them, but they need to make their own decisions, and I will help try to guide them and be, the best dad that I can be. I didn't have a dad, so it's like a role I'm unprepared for, but I think I make a good one. Everyone says that, so
Yeah.
but yeah, I worry about their well being, and again, just watching them progress in their life. Like I just said earlier, 8th grade to ninth, man.
Yeah.
It's insane, like, just watching them develop, it's amazing. And not have I guess the burden of struggles is another principles that, knowing that they didn't go through hardships that, was underwent is a big, A plus in my book, at least for me, not necessarily,
Yeah.
like,
That's
you know
good.
yeah. But I don't owe them anything in other than, like, to as in, like that, the way I see it. I think that hit harder when I went to jail and I wasn't there to necessarily provide. And
Mm.
that the way the world still turns after you're dead or when if you're gone. If you're removed, the world still turns. It's still gonna, it's still something's gonna get done or it doesn't. And that's just the way it goes. And you're obviously removed to a scenario, so there's nothing you could even do about it. Yet, like I said, it goes back to the question: you have a choice to feed the kid if you're there. So that's the argument is when you do choose, you don't do it. That's I would say the immoral act to do that to
Well,
another human being and whatnot, especially one of your own kin.
the problem with sitting in jail worrying and trying not to worry is that you have enough time to really think that you did make a decision not to be responsible for feeding your kid. That's what landed you here. and that becomes a very harsh, reflective process. But sometimes that jail time or the solitude is what's needed to correct that. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
even worse. The man goes to steal food and gets in trouble trying to provide to feed the child.
Well, yeah,
Dun
that
dun dun.
seems
That's in the
pretty.
Bible. It's, yeah, a man prouts when he goes to steal for food. I forget what he frowns upon it. It's one of the. I love that verse. Yeah,
Mhm.
right. It's really good.
Well,
Cause
Tog, it's
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
it, it's getting pretty late, man. I, I've enjoyed the conversation. I haven't spoke to you in a while, and you talk a little bit longer if you wanted. But I'm just letting you know I'm going to
Oh,
be
you're
tapping
getting late.
soon.
No, that's fine. I'm gonna go get finish my food that I have and probably watch a movie. So
Yeah,
thank you for
right
the
on.
time and running
Yeah,
through the solipsism argument.
yeah, man. It's good talk.
Yep.
I'll see you around.
Yep.
Take
All
care
right.
and God
Take
bless.
care. You too.